Good afternoon, everybody. It's January 23rd, 2024. This is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading. I hope everybody's doing well. It's actually a little bit warmer here today. I woke up and it was in the 30s, and now it's in the 40s, and finally some of the snow is melting, and we're expected to get 3 inches of rain in a very short period of time, probably starting later today. It's really overcast, no sun. But it's basically not what we need. We had almost a foot of snow over a week, and it's still melting, and then we're going to have all this rain that's going to cause a lot of flooding, I'm sure. But please hit the thumbs up. I hope you all enjoyed the 3 videos that I posted. They're by a man who's no longer with us. His name is Zakaos BreedLove Ewing. He was a targeted person. He was evidently not only in the know, but had friends and or family in the film and music industry. So he knew a lot more than maybe you and I know. But the video that I posted, The Science of Mind Control, Freemasonic Witchcraft Broken Down, etc., I'm going to go into more of that soon. But before I do, I wanted to mention that YouTube has been alerting me, just the way I got an alert that I got a copyright strike for using a video that was allowed by the uploader as a Creative Commons attribution license, reuse allowed. And I mean, you always see, like in the description section, I always place the name of the person that I received the original from. That's just the thing to do. I take a lot of time looking for content, creating content, just like, you know, everybody else. And, you know, I usually seek permission from the originator. If I can't receive permission and they already have a license there that says that it's free to use, and or when you turn the video on, it specifically states fair use. You know, when the video uploads, you know, then, you know, you and I are free to use that. When you're taking something from another creator like myself who changes the heading, let's say, and adds things in the body of the email, and you use it without permission, that's not cool. You need to ask permission. So I'm just going to say, for the record, unless I specifically state in an email, like or not an email, in a video like I'm doing now, that you can share this video, please share this video. If I say those words, then please share the video, like I did with the testimony of that man, I think his name was Daniel, who was in a psych facility. He wanted that to be shared. Roy said to share it, so I shared it freely, and other people shared it freely without asking. So when somebody says, please share freely, that means to share freely. If I'm uploading something and you like it, well, I'm thrilled that you like it. You know, leave a comment down below and, you know, share it to your community page. But if you're going to upload my content, you don't know if I've asked permission or not. If I've asked permission from a contact creator and I receive permission, it doesn't mean that you have permission to upload it. You really need to ask. Okay, so I'm just going to say that instead of going through YouTube gives me a notification, and they will send the person who uploaded my video a message to take it down. Or give credit or whatever. At least give credit. If you're taking somebody else's content, whether I receive permission, whether it's a Creative Commons, if you take it from my channel, just say you received it from my channel. Leave it in the description section. No big deal. I mean, in this particular case, that creator received more views, at least from what I'm seeing, received over 600 views compared to, you know, the few that I received. But I think my channel is being shadow banned anyway. So I just wanted to give that heads up. And thank you for all those people that actually do share it to your community page. And that's great. And now I wanted to get onto the video, The Science of Mind Control and Freemasonic Witchcraft Broken Down. This is by Zakaos BreedLove Ewing. The guy is brilliant, okay? This video is from July 25, 2014. Right? 2014 is 10 years ago. And he was talking about this stuff 10 years ago, trying to wake people up. He's no longer with us. Okay? So, in listening to his video, I create my own notes. And I place those notes in the details section of the description. That's why I usually post at the heading, see description. And I know, depending on what kind of phone you have, you may not readily be able to see that description, okay? I get it. So he's describing certain demons, okay? He's describing psychopaths. He's describing the goo poison being an ancient Chinese poison to make people incoherent, mind triggers. He says to eat purple garlic. But he mentions one specific demon. He calls it the Scavenger Demon. And trash is important to them because of how they use trash, how they use filth. They are filthy. They're disgusting. I mean, they come into our house and they spread dirt, dust, mold, all kinds of stuff. You saw the videos that I posted of whatever they spread into the cat's building. You could see the particles in the air for more than a week. You could still see it there. It's everywhere. I vacuumed the carpet and the stuff is everywhere. It's disgusting. So the Scavenger Demon. Trash is important to them because of how they use trash. They love filth. They go through filth. They go through your trash. They go through your digital trash. And he says, whatever barcode you purchase food under and bring into the house, the witch, the portion of the rotted food, they use it to curse you, right? The spiritual aspect of smuggling trash. The first place the scavenger goes is the kitchen. Imagine? Yeah. And I know that they're in my kitchen. You've seen some of the videos that I post about my food vandalism. And you've shared some of yours as well. That's very similar. So I want to show you. Let me just get my cans here. I see that I have a typographical error here. I'm going to just save it here. So yes, they go into my kitchen. They like to destroy food, and they especially like to dent cans, cat food cans, any kind of cans. So I'm going to show you what they do. They have to mark it. It's almost like they're feral male cats, right? They got to go around, spray their pee-pee everywhere to say, oh, I was here. This is mine. So this is what they do. You see that? You see that, guys? They come in with something sharp or heavy and they dent the tops of the cans. This is to destabilize the can. It's just to let you know that they've been here. Because they're losers. Okay, here's another one. Let me just show you this one. And if they're not denting, like, so this is a pattern, right? So if they're not denting and marking like a feral cat, like they got to mark their pee. Oh, and they use urine too. Oh yeah, they do use urine. I found urine on the side of my house that's not from a cat. Oh, here. And when they really want to get you and your food, they'll actually dent the can like this. Yeah. So that's what these losers do. They like to sabotage your food. But because they're scavenger demons, trash is important to them. Because of how they use trash. They're filthy. They're disgusting. And they curse you through rotting your food. Imagine. Oh, they sound like really happy, happy, joyful people, right? But I'm powerful, you're powerful, we are powerful together, and they are cowards. Yeah, because they hide in the shadows. But, you know, like Zakaos says, eat garlic, you know, it repels vampires, and they are psychic vampires. So TIs, targeted individuals, their crimes against humanity by subhuman psychopaths. Yeah, so I'm going to read a little bit about the psychopath now. This is a book written by Stefan Verstappen, The Art of Urban Survival, Its Defense Against the Psychopath. It's a brief introduction to human predators. Now, I started to read this on another video. I just had wanted to give you a little introduction, but I'm going to read it again here. Surviving Predators. And I think we all need to read this. We all need to understand these subhuman psychopath creatures. And they think there's nothing wrong with them, you know? That's because their brain operates differently. Surviving predators. In the urban environment, criminals fulfill nature's role of predators. While the strategies criminals use may vary widely, there is an important distinction between the two types of criminal: the psychopathic and the non-psychopathic. The non-psychopathic criminal is the type most familiar to the public. For these criminals, crime is a survival mechanism anthropologists call the cheating strategy. The cheating strategy simply refers to the advantage cheating provides in terms of survival. You know, you remember when, I don't know how old you are, when you were taking exams or doing homework in school, and you always had that one kid that was always looking over your shoulder stealing your answers, right? Because they didn't study and you did. They're the cheaters. So the cheating strategy simply refers to the advantage cheating provides in terms of survival. For example, if a person spends 8 hours a day working to earn a certain amount of money, but a thief could spend only a few minutes to gain what another spent 8 hours to acquire, the thief's cheating strategy is cost effective. The gains far exceed the expenditures. However, man is a social animal, and cheaters are seldom tolerated in a reciprocal society wherein everyone works together for common benefits and equal share of the fruits thereof. Society evolved the institution of revenge and punishment as a counter to the cheating strategy. Oh, you hear that, stalkers? Yeah. Yeah, so every time you steal, you cheat, you lie, society evolved an institution of revenge and punishment as a counter to the cheating strategy. While some question the effectiveness of punishment as deterrent on a survival level, punishment factors into the cost-benefit analysis of those considering a cheating strategy. A thief who steals another's wages may be acting cost-effectively, but if the thief is subsequently caught and forced to serve 5 years in prison, he will find the costs now far exceed the benefits. Therefore, crime prevention requires that we make the cost of using the cheating strategy greater than the benefits by forcing criminals to work harder and increasing their chances of being caught. That's the key right there. So the cheating strategy is often used when people are at a disadvantage. Not always. I'm going to say not always. Some people just get off on it. They get off on taking from others even if they have money. I mean, we hear about this all the time. They're celebrity shoplifters. I mean, they don't need to shoplift. They get a cheap thrill out of it. It's like they're challenging to see if they get caught. So poverty, low intelligence, poor education are the root causes of much criminal behavior. Most crime, safety, and self-defense literature focuses on this type of criminal activity: defense against a mugger, preventing theft, home defense, and so forth. This type of crime is logical. One person has something another does not have, so the latter cheats to acquire it. While you cannot condone the methods employed, you can understand the motivation for the actions. Another type of criminal behavior committed by non-psychopaths are crimes of passion. These acts of violence stem from emotional turmoil and are primitive instincts. Many otherwise average people are capable of committing assault, rape, murder in the heat of passion, especially if fueled by drugs and alcohol. While the acts they commit are pathological, they are not themselves necessarily psychopaths. However, when it comes to the second type of criminal, the underlying motivations become surreal. While psychopaths will certainly use the cheating strategy, It is seldom necessary to their survival. A millionaire psychopath would readily rob a starving child. Obviously, the millionaire's survival is not at stake. There's no obvious logic to what motives could underlie such behavior. Psychopaths often elude justice for this very reason. And in criminal trials, the prosecution is required to ascribe a motive to the defendant. However, in the case of psychopaths, their motives are so bizarre and alien that even a prosecutor that even if a prosecutor could explain it, most jurors would not believe it. This is what happens with us, guys. In the case of psychopaths, their motives are so bizarre and alien that even if a prosecutor could explain it, most jurors would not believe it. A psychopath can also assault, rape, and murder, but it is seldom a crime of passion. It is instead a cold and calculated plan to gain what the psychopath wants. Of all the criminal types that inhabit our society, the psychopath is by far the most destructive, the most successful, and the least understood. And for these reasons, any self-defense program must begin with a study of the most dangerous predator on the planet. Now, I'm going to add that the most dangerous predators on the planet, these psychopaths, are controlling this country. And in many countries around the world, like the WEF, right? Okay, so let's keep that in mind. We know who they are. I don't have to name them. You know, the guy from the Gates of Hell and, you know, all those other people. So the psychopath is the urge to save humanity is almost always a false face for the urge to rule it. That's a quote by H.L. Mencken. Psychopathy affects the full spectrum of humanity, irrespective of race, culture, geography, economic class, or personality type. It is distributed in a population in a similar way that left-handedness is. One would not notice a person is left-handed until you see him write or catch a ball. Similarly, one may not notice a psychopath until you see him do something that requires them to have a conscience. Most people think of a psychopath as a rare creature found only in the lowest levels of society. However, the reverse is true. They're not rare, but actually quite common. And you are more likely to find psychopaths in the boardroom than on the wrong side of the tracks. The reason is that the more competitive a particular environment is, the more ruthless the use of the cheating strategy becomes. Within the highest circles of power and wealth, a lack of pity and remorse is practically a prerequisite to success, and only the psychopathic mentality can thrive. Because of the tremendous destruction psychopaths reap on society, it is vital for everyone to be aware of their existence and to recognize their behavior traits. Understanding them is the first step to defending oneself against them. So here are some of the key characteristics, okay? Lack of empathy. Empathy is the ability to experience within oneself the feelings and emotions expressed by others. It is what allows us to feel what others are feeling. It is why we are inspired by work of art, music, and poetry. Empathy allows us to experience the grandeur of life, to be truly alive, and is one of the defining characteristics of what makes us human. Psychopaths have no empathy, and as a result, they are neither truly human nor truly alive. When they see quote-unquote normals admiring a piece of art or playing with their children or caring for a pet or any number of human emotional interactions, they can't understand what all the fuss is about. Psychopaths realize at an early age that they're different and that they should act as everyone else does in order to be accepted into society. They learn to mimic, you hear that? Key word. They learn to mimic what they see others do, but they can never understand why they should act this way. And I'm just going to say for the record, Well, guess who mimics us? All these creatures that stalk us because they're psychopaths. They learn to mimic what they see others do, but they never understand why they should act this way. So they ostracize it. They mimic it to discredit it, to disgrace it. Because it's not something that they feel. They have no knowledge of it. They look at it as a weakness to destroy. So they mimic what we do. Although they are consummate actors, careful observation will reveal telltale cracks in their facade. They know enough to fake concern when someone is sick, or to pretend happiness when some good fortune befalls a friend. But in situations where the psychopath has no pre-rehearsed act, their ad-lib often reveals a stunning lack of empathy. For example, if attending a funeral, a psychopath would correctly mimic the same expressions of sadness as the other mourners, but then make sexual advances towards the grieving widow, clueless to the gross inappropriateness of such an action. People with empathy would instinctively understand such behavior as inappropriate. However, the psychopath cannot. Lack of remorse. Remorse is an emotional expression of personal regret felt by a person after he or she has committed an act which they deem to be shameful, hurtful, or violent. This very definition precludes a psychopath from experiencing such a feeling. With no empathy, there can be no emotional expression, nor can a psychopath feel shame, nor comprehend that anything that they do can be harmful to others. Psychopaths understand when people are angry with them for their behavior, and as a last resort, they may pretend that they're sorry. But unlike most people, they're not the least bit disturbed by the feelings of guilt. Remorse is a powerful negative emotion that causes turmoil in those that feel it. Turmoil that often results in self-destructive or self-deprecating behaviors. The psychopath may pretend remorse, but their real behavior does not change. They still go shopping, they still go to parties. They have no problem sleeping at night. Number 3, superficiality. Passion drives someone to go further than needed to explore, learn, and master a subject. Most people enjoy listening to music, but it is someone passionate about music that goes on to learn how to play an instrument. Similarly, many people are interested in new technology, but only a passionate person goes on to become an engineer. Lacking passion for anything other than themselves, psychopaths can never penetrate beyond the surface of most knowledge. As a result, they exhibit a quote-unquote superficial comprehension of some of the many subjects, but are often seen by true experts as being shallow. This superficiality extends to their attempts at acting normal by exhibiting false emotions through an exaggerated affect. Grandiosity. Despite being shallow and superficial, psychopaths show no self-esteem issues. Psychopaths live in a falsely constructed worldview in which they are both literally and figuratively God. Often seen as megalomaniacs, they also have an equally overblown sense of entitlement. Well, that sounds familiar, huh, guys? Irresponsibility. Psychopaths are irresponsible because nothing is ever their fault. Someone else or the world at large is always to blame for all of their problems. This makes sense if you understand that psychopaths think themselves perfect. Nothing wrong can ever originate with them, and so logic, the psychopath's logic, dictates that everything bad is always someone else's fault. Impulsive behavior. The psychopath's impulsive behavior makes sense in light of their megalomania. In their world, whatever they want now is good, and whatever they do not want is bad. If a psychopath wants sex and his date will not provide it, then rape is good and the date is bad. If someone has money and is in his or her pocket and the psychopath wants it, then robbery is good and the victim is bad, for possessing something that the psychopath wanted. If this strikes the reader as insane, it is. One of the earliest writers of the subject of psychopathy is J.C. Pritchard, coined the now defunct term moral insanity as a way to describe psychopathy in 1835. Is that amazing? Moral insanity. Okay, so the psychopath is morally insane. That's for sure. And most of these stalkers, these quote-unquote gang stalkers, these community stalkers, are totally insane. They're morally corrupt. They're morally insane. Next is poor behavior control. This characteristic can be misleading since many psychopaths exhibit excellent self-control by having to pretend to be normal for most of their lives. The lack of self-control comes into play when the megalomania causes them to do and behave exactly as they please at any time that they have an urge. This brings us to the next characteristic, lacking goals. Another characteristic attributed to the psychopathic personality is the lack of goals, but this can be misleading. Many psychopaths have goals, such as murder 2 victims at once, sabotage a coworker, become president, or how about it become a stalker of an innocent person. However, often long-term goals are subverted into short-term goals that are as described previously, whatever the psychopath wants at that particular moment. Oh, here comes a good one. Compulsive lying. Lie, lie, lie. Living at the expense of the rest of humanity would be an impossible situation in a rational society. Psychopaths have solved this dilemma through their premier weapon, lies. Lies hold together their view of themselves, their own private universe, and facilitate their need to live parasitically off the rest of society. Oh, how about those fusion center operatives that go into communities spreading defamation? I don't know, it's a lie. They're spreading lies, right? Compulsive lying of the psychopath, fusion center operative. Without empathy, shame, and remorse, they are free to lie as often as outrageously they please. Normal people would blush or sweat or tremble if they dared stretch the truth to the same degree. However, for the psychopath, lying is as easy and natural as breathing. This is why they often pass polygraphs. They do not register the physiological reactions that non-psychopaths would when lying. They're so good at lying, they can fool trained psychiatrists and even other psychopaths. What is important to know is that, given the right circumstances, they can fool anyone. So people out there, don't beat yourselves up for having been involved with a psychopath. They are so good at lying that they can fool anyone, okay? Next, they're extremely manipulative. Hand in hand with the psychopath's extraordinary ability to lie comes the ability to manipulate others to their own benefit. Having spent their lifetime studying us, right? Oh, that sounds familiar. Oh, the peeping Toms and peeping Janes, you know, those bun babes that watch us. They're watching to see how they can instigate and torture us. Yes. So they've spent their lifetime studying us. Psychopaths are masters of manipulation and experts on knowing how to push our buttons to use our emotions against us. Yes, that's exactly what they do. And I'm being targeted right now at the top of my head. They use this ability to keep those around them confused, unable to think clearly, and off balance. Psychopaths also learn very early how their personalities can have traumatizing effects on the personalities of non-psychopaths, and how to take advantage of this for the purposes of achieving their goals. Like the electric eel that stuns its prey with an electroshock, psychopaths' inhuman personality and their uncanny ability to manipulate can psychologically stun their intended victims. Oh, the list is growing. And what about their antisocial behavior? The very essence of the psychopath is antisocial. Their lack of empathy for other people extends onto society and the environment. Oh, here's a good one. Here it comes, guys. Vandalism, pollution, graffiti, animal abuse, environmental destruction, building code violations, reckless driving, and a host of morally and socially unacceptable activities are of no concern to the psychopath. Sound familiar? Targeted people? I'm just going to read that one again because it's so good. Antisocial behavior. The very essence of the psychopath is antisocial. Their lack of empathy for other people extends onto society and the environment. The environment. Anybody see those X's in the sky? Oh, and speaking of which, New Hampshire's got a bill out banning that stuff. Vandalism, pollution, graffiti, animal abuse, environmental destruction, building code violations, reckless driving, and a host of morally and socially unacceptable activities are of no concern to the psychopath. These, then, are the basic characteristics that psychopaths exhibit. Bear in mind that few psychopaths will express all of the characteristics, and that non-psychopaths can have many of these characteristics as well. So now there are some common types of psychopaths. While there are many variations in the personalities of psychopaths, as there are among normal people, the following lists some general stereotypes. Here come the narcissists. The most benign, they're calling it benign, the most benign form of psychopathy is pathological narcissism. Narcissists, like the mythological Greek namesake Narcissus, are so overcome with self-love that nothing else in the world matters but them. They need a constant source of narcissistic supply, which is attention, adoration, recognition, awards, and praise. There are two basic types of narcissists, the somatic and the cerebral. The somatic narcissists take pride in their looks and appearance. They will flaunt their sexual exploits, brag of their accomplishments, show off their muscles, and display their toys. They are often health nuts, hypochondriacs, and sex addicts. Much of their narcissistic supply comes from having numerous sexual partners, but the act itself, often flamboyant and exaggerated, is nonetheless merely an empty show put on by the narcissist for him or her own amusement. Because of their barren inner life, they continually need new thrills simply for the rush of adrenaline. These thrills range from criminal activity and substance abuse to increasingly bizarre sexual acts. I don't know. That man that with the islands, I've been thinking about that guy. Do you think that he's any one of these people? Think he's a narcissist? So a somatic narcissist. So a cerebral narcissist loves their own mind. They're arrogant, condescending, and know-it-alls that pride themselves on being smarter than everyone else. Contrary to the somatic type, the cerebral narcissists often regard their body and its maintenance as a nuisance and a burden, and are physically lazy, unfit, and often celibate. Their narcissistic supply comes from fame, notoriety, awards, and displays of wealth to create envy in others. The danger to the public from narcissists is the drain on energy, time, resources, and emotional well-being. A narcissist is interested in a person only for what the narcissistic supply that a person can provide. They will gladly accept love, attention, affection, adoration, praise, emotional and financial support, but being without empathy, they cannot reciprocate any of it. Any partnership they enter into will always be one-sided. Once a person ceases to be a source of narcissistic supply, or a better source comes along, they're discarded without hesitation or consideration. Thus, do narcissists leave behind them a trail of broken hearts, broken dreams, empty wallets, and abandoned children? The next type of psychopath is the victim, commonly used by female psychopaths, but by no means unheard of among males, is the professional victim stereotype. They prey on whatever psychopaths see as a weakness in others. Sympathy. The female psychopath appears helpless, pitiful, emotionally fragile, persecuted, and sexually vulnerable. She pretends heartfelt gratitude for whatever small kindness strangers provide her, but behind the mask is a cunning, ruthless, and loveless predator, often using sex as a hook. They can juggle several victims at a time, draining them of life and money until there's nothing left, and then skipping town to avoid the repercussions. Then there are the con artists. Not all con artists are psychopaths, but psychopaths make convincing con artists. They're excellent liars. They put that talent to use by cheating others. Without a conscience or remorse to stand in the way, they are free to cheat old women out of their life savings, sell quack cures to terminally ill patients, or shortchange the blind. They're usually charming, articulate, and convincing, and make successful salespersons. Unlike the narcissist, the con artist is not as concerned about love or attention as is money. They want money. There are two types of cons psychopaths engage in: the short con and the big store con. The short con is probably the one that most often comes to mind when thinking about con artists. These are tricks and cheats that require no great intelligence to pull off, such as shortchanging someone, baiting and switching, and the three-card Monty, to name a few. Psychopaths that have a higher intelligence level and or come from a more respectable background are more likely to establish the big store con. These are large-scale frauds that all rely on a basic strategy. Take something of little or no value, artificially inflate the perceived value, sell to gullible investors, take the money and run. There's a lot of people like that, guys. Traditional big store cons use real estate, stocks, and bonds as the lure. Even reputable multinational corporations, accounting firms, and banks are all capable of being nothing more than a large-scale con. While the short con can deprive a victim of a few $1,000s, the big store cons are especially destructive, capable of destroying an entire nation's economy. I don't know. That sounds a little familiar. Is anybody else thinking what I'm thinking? While the short con can deprive a victim of a few $1,000s, the big store cons are especially destructive, capable of destroying an entire nation's economy. The after effects of these psychopaths are usually financial devastation, along with the repercussions of broken marriages, suicides, alcoholism, domestic violence, drug addiction, and ruined lives. Then there are malevolent psychopaths. The more popularly known as antisocial personality disorder or sociopaths, the malevolent psychopath is the real-life monster of our nightmares. These are the wife beaters, the murderers, serial killers, stalkers, rapists, sadists, the kiddo people, gangsters, interrogators, and terrorists. Oh, I could add a couple in there, but I won't. I don't know. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's like LELCOP. They are usually career criminals and can amass an extensive criminal record while still in their early teens, often showing their contempt with a sneer or a smirk. With a vacant stare from a cold, predatory eyes, they are dangerous, unpredictable, and easily triggered into violence. Oh my goodness, I know somebody just like that. I actually know more than one person just like that, with a little sneer and the smirk that goes up the corner of the mouth. I don't know, one of them was wearing a badge and the other one was wearing a suit. I don't know. They're dangerous, unpredictable, and easily triggered into violence, cowardly and sadistic. They tend to target the most vulnerable in society: women, children, and the elderly and disabled. Their impulsive and opportunistic sociopaths will not hesitate to commit any type of crime and will use manipulation, intimidation, and violence to get what they want. The malevolent psychopath can show signs of their illness as early as age 3. Early warning signs include, listen to this, compulsive lying. And this is at age 3, guys. Compulsive lying, fighting, stealing, bullying, bad judgment, cheating, cruelty to animals, vandalism, truancy, sexual activity at 3, oh my goodness, fire setting, substance abuse, and running away from home. The malevolent psychopath is the natural born, I have to use the word, unaliver. You know, it begins with the letter K. It's the unnatural born unaliver. Then there's the professional psychopath. The malevolent psychopath is the most dangerous. However, the professional psychopath is the most destructive. While the victims of the former can range in the dozens, the victims of the professional psychopath can run into the tens of millions. These psychopaths litter history with genocides and the destruction of entire nations and empires. Historical examples include such monsters as Stalin, Pol Pot, Ivan the Terrible, and Caligula. While there are many that make it to the pinnacle of the political stage, there are also such historical figures as J.P. Morgan, Randolph Hearst, and Mayer Rothschild. Professional psychopaths that reach the pinnacle of the financial stage where they cause no less misery and destruction as their political counterparts. The professional psychopath is just as malevolent, narcissistic, and remorseless as the other stereotypes. They're just much smarter. They can be found in any profession, but usually in the government, corporations, and religions will be thick with them. In a corporation, the professional psychopaths are ideally suited for advancement. They can masterfully fake their abilities and credentials, use their intellect and charm to manipulate and exploit others, and generally backstab their way into a high position. Once in power, their masks slip off, and they abuse their power and bully and sabotage their co-workers and subordinates. Oh, I know a female like that. I do. Yeah. And unfortunately, I can't even say it. I can't even say it. But it's bad when you're like that and you claim to be taking care of cats. Oh my goodness. In politics, the professional psychopath's ruthlessness and cunning gives them a distinct advantage over any psychopath rival. They make charismatic leaders, manipulating and brainwashing the naive, vulnerable, and uneducated or mentally weak. Mastery of lying allows them to make whatever outrageous campaign promises straight-faced, of course, with no intention of keeping any of them. A life spent faking being human gives them the ability to assume the roles of virtuous public servant, the perfect father, husband, advisor, mentor, and everyman. In addition, when things get rough, they have no inhibitions in playing dirty and readily resort to murder, assassination, persecution, war, and genocide. The third sphere of power that has traditionally attracted more than its fair share of psychopaths is religion. I don't usually talk about this topic, guys. My mom always taught me, don't talk about politics and religion, it'll get you in trouble. But I'm reading this. A quick glance at the history of religion, from the bloody sacrifices of the Aztec priests to the tortures of the Spanish Inquisitions, and through seemingly endless religious wars waged in the name of peace and love, makes their influence plainly visible to all willing to look. Since most, if not all, great religions are constructed on falsehoods, compulsive liars make the perfect proselytizers. A look at the recent created religions such as Mormonism and Scientology show their founders, Joseph Smith and L. Ron Hubbard, respectively, were at least compulsive liars, and more likely full-blown psychopaths. Charismatic cult leaders such as Jim Jones and Sung Yoon Moon were indeed psychopaths, while televangelist preachers that rake in millions from their gullible flocks are the best con artists of the higher caliber. Religion's supposed I can't speak French, guys. Raison d'etre of moral education and the veil of goodness, quote unquote, it bestows attracts psychopaths that use their membership in the religion as a cover, an extra sugar coating, lest anyone suspect their true nature. And I'm going to add, they not only use it as a cover of their quote unquote goodness, they use it as a tax shelter to hide their money. Oh, everything is like the donation. Yeah. You get the donation, the little basket that goes around, and donate to my what is it called? Ministry, my church, whatever they call them. We've got dozens of them around here. When psychopaths dominate and seize control of the major cultural institutions that influence a society, a final type of psychopath is created. This is the secondary psychopath. While the classic genetic psychopath is one who's born with whatever genetic trait that causes psychopathy, pathology, there is another group of people that behave just like the classic psychopath, who were not born that way, but were created. The secondary psychopaths are created in two ways: through trauma and through groups. Trauma from an accident, drug addiction, severe physical and psychological abuse can destroy that part of the frontal cortex of the brain where empathy and consciousness is processed. While such individuals is a tragic reality of our society, they are in most cases just as incurable as their genetic counterparts are. The exception is in drug-induced psychopathy. Yes. Most drug addicts will behave like psychopaths, since the criminality in their addiction forces them to adopt a psychopathy as a psychological survival mechanism. But I'm going to tell you, if it started really young, it's very hard to undo this, okay? It's really hard. Like, you really have to want to. With drug rehabilitation, they may regain their self-conscience, provided the drug use did not severely damage the brain itself. Well, I'm going to add that there are biological, psychological, and physiological stages of development. And at any point in time, if those developmental stages are interfered with, you may never get it back. You may never get it back. Okay? I'm not saying that you couldn't, but it depends on how young the person's stage of development is. Sort of like it's widely known that whatever age a person starts abusing drugs, if they stay addicted for many, many years, they're still behaving like that 12-year-old. Even when they stop using, they still have the mindset, the emotional maturity of a 12-year-old if they started at 12. The second way in which psychopaths are created is through groups. There are certain groups that will attract psychopaths because of the opportunities of power and influence that membership provides. Oh, I can think of one. Can't you? Can't you guys? Usually such groups will quickly become led and dominated by psychopaths. Other non-psychopathic members of these groups would have to become psychopaths in order to survive. I can't even say it. Can you? You know who they are, guys. We talk about them all the time. The 3 ones. The 333. For example, in a street gang, sociopaths make the best leaders, and therefore most gangs have a sociopath as its head. Other psychopaths are also attracted to the violence and power of a street gang, and so gather they create a psychopathic value system. The gang becomes the psychopathic entity, and the non-psychopathic youth who must live within the territory of such a gang is given 2 choices. You can become a victim of the gang or join them. Well, that sounds familiar, right? If you can't beat them, join them, right? By joining the gang, the new recruit must also adopt the group's twisted value system and behave accordingly, thus becoming a secondary psychopath. Conversely, the other end of the scale, we can see the same principle at work in corporations. The money and power of a corporation attracts the cerebral and narcissistic psychopaths. In a corporate environment, they have many advantages over their non-psychopathic competitors for promotion. Not surprisingly, most corporations end up being run by psychopaths. As with a criminal gang, Corporation's culture adopts the twisted values of its leaders. Those who would seek employment must likewise adopt, or at least appear to adopt, the corporation's essentially psychopathic mindset. What is important to understand is that a mob has no conscience. I'm going to repeat that. A mob has no conscience. Individual members may or may not have a conscience, but when they are part of a mob, they will have none. That's why these little weenies, they have to be in a pack, like a pack of wolves. Get them all alone and they're nothing. Most organizations, from street gangs to corporations, are mobs. It would be a mistake to place your trust in them, since they can turn predatory in a moment and deprive you of time, money, sanity, and livelihood. The psychopath's modus operandi is that one weakness psychopaths have is that once one studies them and begins to understand them, they become predictable. While tactics vary from one to another, most psychopaths follow a similar strategy when conning either an individual or an organization. Oops, I just scrolled too much. 1 second. Okay. So their strategy is as follows, and I'm up to the 51-minute mark, so I'm going to read a little bit more, because this is 34 pages long, okay? So I'm obviously not going to read 34 pages, but I'm going to read this last section here. The interview. Psychopaths are experts at cold reading. First used by psychologists to describe what phony fortune tellers do is cold reading. It's the ability to guess a person's personality type quickly through verbal and nonverbal communication, which we can't do via the internet, right, guys? The technique is simple. Ask questions and watch the responses. Psychopaths will cold read you as part of what is called the interview stage. The whole purpose of the interview is for the psychopath to size you up as a potential victim. They make mental notes of different ways they could possibly manipulate you. Learning to say less and observe more when first meeting people is the easiest way to defend against a psychopath. In social situations, you can be congenial without having to reveal personal information that could be used against you later. Remember that getting to know you is a privilege that should be earned over time. And I'm going to end here, folks. I hope you enjoyed that. This is Defense Against the Psychopath. It's by Stefan. Let's see. Let me get his real name here. It's a brief introduction to human predators by Stefan, S-T-E-F-A-N, Verstappen, V-E-R-S-T-A-P-P-E-N, from the book The Art of Urban Survival. So I hope that gives you a better understanding of the types of psychopaths and how that applies to the criminals that stalk us and vandalize our property, why they do what they do, and how they don't give a crap. They don't feel, they don't care, and how, even if they're not a psychopath, when they are part of a group, a mob, they develop a lack of conscience, which is very interesting. But I hope you enjoyed that, and please remember to hit the thumbs up. This is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading, exposing one criminal at a time.